so here we are, Stellar Horizons 2. Let's take a look at the, let's distract ourselves and make this less of an opening. Let's take a look at the campaign-specific rules that aren't embedded in the main rules. Some of which are used in some of the scenarios anyway, and, you know, I found, for example, there's things here in these, the mining and research, the events, and really the anomalies as well, the trade goods, that aren't actually escalation and influence, that aren't actually used in any of the scenarios that I can see. Yeah, the anomalies are sort of used, barely. The trade goods are used in one, the counters are used, but they're used in a different fashion. So, I don't know why the decision was made to split certain rules into the campaign at the end of the book, and others were put in blue, as in, these are only used in the campaign, even though they're used in some of the scenarios or not. Dependent. It's a weird decision. All the decisions around the rules in this game are really, really weird. All right. Instead of competitively, you can play the campaign solo one player. I'm not going to do that. I'm interested in the competitive game. Or cooperatively, if you do ignore the combat rules and remove certain cards. For cooperative victory, take the average of all players' score to determine your group's rank. At the start of the game, there's a truce in place, so no faction can attack another. Starting in 2110, you roll percentile dice at the end of each turn to see if the truce ends. It's going to be a 1% cumulative per turn. Now, we start in, I think we started in 2110. Probably 2100. Okay. Now, there's something really weird here. Demilitarized Earth attacks aren't ever allowed in the Sol system as an optional rule. I'm not going to play with that, but you can see where this could be a problem if you don't play with this, which is someone who doesn't set up a base before hostilities start. When they build, the Earth system is able to build ships, and it may be your only place, well, it's going to be your only place you can build ships early in the game, which means on a bad percentage chance early on, you might see a very, very different game happening because there's fighting right in out of Earth. But we'll play without the option because I think that makes things easier. The game starts with the exploration phase of 2100. There we go. The exploration phase. Let's grab this since we have the whole thing. The exploration phase is way down here, which means you're probably not going to do much. You're going to develop tech and buy cards and then go immediately into 2110. You're not going to have any ships on the board unless there are starting ships or something. And even so, that doesn't really help you. Add the century and decade markers to the turn track. Roll percentiles for initiative. Whatever. Lay out the map and add exploration markers everywhere. Lay out cache. Make a pool of the world tiles. You set aside a bunch of more habitable worlds that'll be added later during terraforming. Not just terraforming that you actually terraform in, though. Make pools of the tech markers by type. Yeah, make a pool of trade goods. Okay, we don't have that yet. I have to decide. I don't know how trade goods were used, so I have them sorted and everything. I'm going to have to figure out another little cup or something for them. I can do cups of this size. Layout cache. Add the sole demand marker to Earth. We should get some of this shit out of here. That is Whoa! Something fell in here at some point or another. The sole demand marker. That is this one. I don't have the whole board set up, whatever, but make a pool of anomalies and a separate pool of events, so I'm going to need yet another larger bag, or I'll swap them in and out. Make a pool of economic phase tiles. We haven't seen these yet. This I can just shuffle, I think, or roll for. This is just a small set of pieces that determine what happens in each economic phase and gives you a cycling through them. Make a pool of escalation markers. We have that. I need a place to put it. That's these are separated out. Those are going to be your penalties for conducting unprovoked aggressions. Each player takes initial cash and tech as if performing Earth production for 2100. That's going to be the Earth production rules. That probably happens in the economic phase. Make shuffled decks of genetic engineering and fleet improvement cards by type and level. That should be 6 decks. There's 2 different types and 3 levels of each. I haven't unripped them. And each player gets 1 level 1 of each for their hand. Now, then it says 2 genetic or fleet cards for transhumanists or praetorians, respectively. I think that means instead of 1 of each, they get 2 of 1. But I could see people reading it as they get 1 and 2. Probably doesn't mean too much. Yeah, I think you're only allowed 1 of each anyway. Okay, I don't know. Set up initial ships. Some are set up with transfer markers indicating how many turns they will take to arrive. So something is already happening at the beginning of the game. You don't get to choose everything. That's probably important to keep people from getting too much of an advantage. It feels a little restrictive to me, but whatever. There's rules to reduce the size of the game. I'm not going to go into those. Here are all the ships that are in process in progress at the beginning of the game and how far they are from where they're getting. If you want a shorter campaign, you can start it in 2250. They start with 2 columns of text developed, no initial ships. They get 60 billion extra bucks, so they can customize their forces a little bit more. I'm going to play the original more futuristic end. If you want a longer development arc, start rolling for game end in 2250. Well, I don't know. All right. What about the basic roll? Start rolling for the campaign end after the 2500 turn. A 1% per turn, cumulative. I'm really not sure. Like, let's stretch it out a little longer. I don't really know if I like the way the game is going to end, but by making it a random ending, you know, it adds an element of luck, but I don't know. Add plus 1% to the chance for each player who has developed every tech of each type on the tech chart. Up to 3% per player. Okay, so it's 1% for each tech. Okay. Category. Here are the victory points. Titles and directives. Titles will give you 10 points per title owned. Directives give you points or a penalty if you haven't fulfilled it. Points are on the genetic and fleet cards. I believe that's the little star value here. Again, we'll get those out. Technology, you get a penalty for every tech you didn't get. Settlements, you get half the distance. So each settlement, which is per point in a base, you get half the distance from Sol, Yeah, and I guess you add them up. Each full set of 5 settlements at a base is worth +1. The person who has the most settlements at any single base gets a +10. Exploration markers kept from last system survey. 1 per marker. Exploration markers kept. I think that's going to be the tech markers that you keep. I don't know if it explains it. Escalation. You get a positive victory point value if they say so on them. Otherwise, it's -1 per marker with a negative effect on them. Influence points. Half your influence points that you have, which again are kind of like money as far as I can tell. Andrew Rader's been watching at least some of these, so and answering a couple of more philosophical questions. So far he hasn't come up with a rules correction or anything for me, so I'm assuming that I'm doing okay. Tech points, 1 for each full set of 10. Okay. Cash, 1 for each full set of 10 billion. This is going to be hard to remember. Exploration markers kept from the last system survey. First of all, how do you know when the last one was? And I just don't know. Like, I feel like I kind of want to neglect that because it's going to be a pain in the ass to deal with because I don't know when the game's going to end. So, you know, yes, there's a period where I can start paying attention. Bonus for players in the game. You get a number of points based on the number of opponents you have. This is because there's an overall score as well as a competitive score. And in order to judge your overall score to smaller games, that's going to be counted in. This is really, so the exploration marker from last system survey, chances are, I'm guessing that there's not going to be a lot left to survey at the end of the game, right? After 500 years. 400 years? Interestingly, this goes out to 2900, so you could play a much longer game conceivably. I mean, you could anyway, because it's a 1% chance per decade, right? So in 2510, you're rolling your first 1% chance. You could say, well, by 2600 it'll end. No, 2600 is only going to be like a 10% chance, around there. Each century is going to add 10% to the chance. Now, it's very unlikely you'll get to 2900, but it's plausible, you know, if the dice are really bad. All right, let's get to the actual rules, and I'm going to need to swap batteries for this. I think we'll get the rules done before I have to play Raid. I only have like 45 minutes total, and I probably have eaten it up, but I don't know. Okay, at the beginning of the campaign turn, you draw an economic phase tile, one of these suckers. To determine which actions the players perform. And I guess these are the different options here. Roll initiative, earth production, draw trade goods, draw event, base production. Yeah. We got the terraforming, which maybe happens every turn. After you draw a tile, set it aside until all tiles have been drawn, at which point shuffle them back into a pool and start again. You can't perform the same actions 2 turns in a row if you draw the same tile as the last. After a reshuffle, shuffle it back in and draw another. I might be able to manipulate it so that definitely can't happen. Just through some cleverness. Because I'm going to be rolling dice and stacking the deck. After scrambling them. Roll initiative and discard escalation. All right, if you get that one, Players declare IPs to spend, increasing their initiative die roll up to 3. Then everybody rolls percentiles. Okay. Instead of percentiles, you could just use a D10, in which case it would be a +2, but modified by plus 20% per IP spent. And the nice thing about percentiles is that they give you less chance of ties. The bad thing about them is you have to roll more dice. And you could say, well, 1 versus 2 dice. Yeah, but here's the thing. I could grab 7 different colored 10-sided dice and roll them. However, we would get a fair amount of ties out of that. And those would require rerolls. So maybe percentile are better. I don't know. I could roll 14. That's going to be hard because I don't have a lot of percentile dice that are built as percentile dice. I have a lot of 10-siders that I could pair up colors, but that's tricky. Okay. Then reset the initiative order of players in order from highest to lowest roll. The highest roll gets number 1, blah, blah, blah. After rolling initiative, players discard half their escalation markers, choosing which ones they get to keep. So the penalties you get for escalation are temporary, whereas the advantages you get to hold on to, presumably. And in fact, you might be in a situation where you want to escalate to keep your bonus, your positives. Draw a random event tile. If it doesn't have a combat or science challenge, perform the action listed and return it to the pool. If it does have a challenge, the player with the last initiative who has at least 1 base must choose a system with one of their bases to place the event in. If no players have bases, ignore the event and return it to the pool. And I assume it's kind of like an anomaly. It's going to cause you problems at your base. Earth production. Collect Earth production in cache and tech markers, which vary by century. See faction sheets. Earth production is listed here. You just get a pile of cache, some tech markers, and you also have a limit to how many bases, trade goods, and ships that you can have. Okay. Note that trade goods are produced in a different step. Base production. Before base production, players can declare blockades in reverse initiative order in order to blockade a player's base. In order to blockade a player's base, you must have ships in the system with a sum of combat values higher than the sum of combat values of the target player's ships in the system plus the number of settlements in their system. You can blockade multiple players' bases, but you must meet the criteria simultaneously of all their combined ships in that system. Draw an escalation marker for each base you blockaded, base being a collection of settlements in a system. The blockaded players draw an IP each. I really hate how they say draw here. Because that makes this sound like it's a pool. And I'm pretty sure they're not. Because there's other places where they're dealt with in a different terminology. I really hate that. It very much... But there's no talking about a pool of IPs or anything like that, right? Right? Let me recheck. Yeah, I would have noted, because that's a huge number of tokens, I would have noted if that was the case. I need to blow my nose. I'll be back. Oh boy. Well, yeah, I misjudged time. I got about 10 minutes before raid time, so I'm not going to go much further here. Before base production, players can declare blockades. Yeah, we got that. Blockaded bases have their production. For production, each base can produce either cash or one type of tech. Earth production is everything. Base production, you match the settlements, and you can take cash or a tech bonus of your type. Gives you the population, which is unimportant, except as a, wow. There's one advantage of glossy paper. It doesn't take the tobacco as nasty as real paper, but shouldn't have that resin on my hand. Okay. For production, each base produces either cache or one type of tech, your choice. The amount of cache or tech markers is equal to the highest world production value in the system. Right. Okay. So these are the bonuses you get for the size of the settlement. You look at the planet. Cache production, I think, is the blue number. No. It's the red number. Whereas the tech production is either a blue, gray, or green number. And I'm going to have trouble. This is green. This is blue. I'm really having difficulty distinguishing. Now, if they're next to each other, I can see it real well. But when I look at this looks blue to me. I have a little bit of color blindness there, or inability to distinguish between blues and greens. I don't know how bad that is. Like, it's a very, I think it's very common to have difficulty to distinguish between those colors. Like it's not like the red-green color blindness where I'm told it's not a matter of not being able to distinguish between two things that you kind of see close to correctly. It's rather that they both look gray, which is weird. Like, that's truly colorblind. Here I just have difficulty distinguishing between a couple colors that are close to each other. Fucking battery. Okay, I don't have much time, so I can't deal with my battery. Okay, so you get the highest world production value of the system for the type of money or tech that you're going to take, and a bonus equal to the number of settlements on your base based on this. So like if you have 20 settlements there, you'd get $4 billion extra if you choose to take cash, or you'd get 2 extra tech of the type that you're picking. What this means is spreading out is really worthwhile for economics, but a nice big base can be useful to you. And it's each base is producing. Okay, you draw trade goods. Draw the number of trade goods indicated on your faction sheet by settlement, by century. Assign each good to either one of your bases or Earth. The chosen location must have at least one of the world types indicated on the front of the good. Earth and trade good. Earth and E class count as M class for trade. Okay, so it looks to me like I could swap between events and trade good pool, or I could just put the trade goods in their own little thing because they're small. I'm trying to figure out how I can do this without as many bags as I have. I'm worried, like, because I need rather large bags for directives and events, and I really don't have many more bags of any size. If there aren't enough trade, okay. Some anomalies allow bases to produce trade goods. Find these in the pool. If there aren't enough, take $1 billion instead. We'll have to see how the anomaly is worded there. It looks to me like they produce extra trade goods in addition to what you would draw normally, the way this is worded. It's a weird wording. Like, some anomalies also allow bases to produce trade goods. Makes it sound like, well, if I don't have it on the planet, I can add, like I add that type of trade good to what's allowed. That's how it's written. But then it tells me to basically hunt through the pool and look for those, which is a different kind of thing. Like, that's additional trade goods. Draw trade goods. Oh, we were already here. Yeah, assign the goods to bases or Earth. The location you choose must be at least one of the world types indicated. After genetic manipulations like gifted artists allow you to ignore world assignment restrictions. The number of goods that can be assigned to a base per turn is limited by the settlements. See base production on faction sheet. That's number of goods that any given base can produce based on the number of settlements it has. That might be another reason why, in certain cases, a very large settlement makes sense, and this fucking thing just won't pay attention. I'm going to smack you next time. Okay. The number of goods that can be assigned to a base is limited. Yeah, the storage capacity of the base is double this. Earth can hold up to 10 goods per faction, and you have a special space for that because, I don't know, you know, I mean, you'd have to put a flag on top or something otherwise. Because there's no limitation on these other things. You can put them with your base, your settlement pieces. Each player can have at most 12 goods anywhere. Okay? So you're going to want to move your goods. Goods can be discarded at any time except during combat. This applies even to trade goods you can't or choose not to assign. Earn $1 billion per discarded or unassigned good. We're going to stop here because, again, I said I'm close to where I need to be. I need to go play Raid. I was hoping to get through more than a page. I guess I had less time than I thought. Like, I had 45 minutes when I came up here and first started discussing. So, you know. All right. Here it is, Sunday morning. It's been raining since Friday, basically. On my way up here, up to the loft, my knee gave out twice, which I'm sure, you know, I'm sure it's damage I'm doing while dancing, but it's just weird. And it's like, wow, I don't know if I can climb these stairs, and I'm worried about making my way down. I had to kind of cling to the rail on the way up. So, you know, maybe I'll topple over and break my neck or something lucky like that. Oh, God. Yeah, everything hurts. All right. We're on settlement growth and migration. This is a section I have no idea about. It, you know, reminds me of Stellar Conquest, Space Empires. There was some sort of growth, I think, in the original Stellar Horizons as well. It's a very similar game. It's just sort of like it's been rethemed for the most part. Yeah, there's some differences, I guess, but and much worse rolls. Before growth, players can declare blockades in the same way as for base production. And you'll also get escalation in IPs, I guess, the same way. So you declare blockades multiple times. Blockades prevent growth and migration. For non-blockaded bases, roll percentiles. And if the base has more than 10 settlements, also roll a 10-sided die at the same time. If a base has, for growth, if a base has 10 or fewer settlements, add 1 to the base. Otherwise, for each full 10 settlements, add 1. For any remaining fraction of 10, add a settlement if the 10-sided die roll was that number or less. Okay. Why did I roll percentile dice? Guess we'll find out. For a base with 13 settlements, add 1 for the set of 10 and add a second on a roll of 1 through 3. Okay. Apply any additional growth from cards, anomalies, etc. after regular growth and migration. For migration, add 1 settlement if the percentile roll is equal to or less than the system's habitability. Okay. For each full 10 settlements at all bases you have, let's see. For each full 10 settlements at all bases you have less than the player with the most, increase your migration chance at all bases by plus 10%. Okay. So we'll have to do a count of what everybody's bases are. And every 10 settlements difference gives you a bonus for migration. The population limit for growth and migration is the sum of the system's world max population. Subtract 10 for every other player with a base in the system. Ooh, so you can't really share the full population with everyone. That's nice. That's nice. Cards that increase population limits apply only to the player of the owner of the card, so the limit of a system can vary by player. Ignore any settlement growth and migration above this limit unless stated otherwise. This doesn't prevent you from hand delivering stuff in game, though. We got a whole example of that, but I think it all makes sense. It's just procedural and whatever. Terraforming and add worlds. If you have the tech terraforming, you can terraform one world in a system where you have a base, unless it has a no base anomaly. And remember, you can get a base and then the no bases shows up, which is how that happens. The givers can terraform an extra time from the start of the game, one time without tech, twice with it, but not the same world twice. I'm guessing that means in one turn. When you terraform, there I go again. When you terraform a world on its one side, simply flip it to its two. When you terraform a world on its two side, draw a new world from the pool, and you can choose to replace the old world with the newly drawn. We already went through this in the second scenario I played. Or no, the first one. If the new one has a higher max population for you, including modifiers, but is not more than 10 higher in printed value. Oh, I didn't realize that. I missed that part. Not that I did any terraforming. Otherwise, return the drawn world to the pool. Or if it has a smaller max population than the original world, including no world, you can remove it from the game. If the pool is empty, each player chooses one removed world to add back in. Gas giants, asteroids, and Earth-like moons can't be terraformed beyond their two side and never terraform into these types of worlds. And you can never terraform. By the way, the world classes, apparently it's something that came from Star Trek, but that's like gaining popularity in the scientific community. And like, yeah, the designer gave me that note. I don't know. If you flip a world from its 1 to its 2, you earn 1 IP. If you replace a world with a new one, get 2. After terraforming, add to the world pool. One of each type of world set aside at the start of the game. I think that's only going to happen from the set aside pool, not from the removed from game stuff, which can go back at other times. Okay. And then we have the optional campaign rules. And we think we'll play with these. You can add directives and titles to introduce more strategy and flavor to campaigns, and just more fun. All right, directives. At the game start, make a pool of directives. Remove combat directives in solo and cooperative games. Also remove directives referencing systems you aren't playing with for smaller maps. Players draw 3 and choose 1 to keep. These are the instructions from your government you can fulfill to earn victory points. The condition of a directive must be met on the turn you fulfill it. You get an IP and reveal the directive to all players. You will score points at the end of the game. At the start of the next turn, draw 2 directives and choose one next to fulfill it. If there's only one left in the pool, just draw the last. By the standardized rules, I think things go back in the pool when you discard, so you need to reshuffle pretty regularly. Players must fulfill a number of directives of the specified types, or they lose 15 points for each they fail to fulfill. If more than one type is specified, any of those types count. And so we have the 7 different seven different players, and how many directives they have to manage. For anomaly directives, resolving with another player counts. For combat directives, determine the target player by only counting settlements at bases. I don't know if that's going to choose which for ties. For production, you can use multiple ships or bases. I don't see a combat one here. We'll figure it out as we go. Once per turn, you can spend 1 IP to discard an unfulfilled directive and redraw. Draw 2, pick 1. Also redraw unfulfilled survey directives for fully surveyed systems. Remove it from the game. Draw 2, pick 1. Titles. At the start of the game, lay out Admiral, Warlord, Chancellor, and 3 additional randomly chosen titles face up near the board. In solo or cooperative, remove the Admiral and Warlord from the game. These are available for purchase at any time for the indicated influence cost by a player who has fulfilled the prerequisite. Must be fulfilled this turn, or currently be fulfilled for have or own prerequisites. Priority goes by initiative. For Admiral, you can consider escalation before or after combat. For Guardian and Mastermind, resolving anomalies with other players counts. When you buy a title other than Admiral, Warlord, or Chancellor, draw a random replacement and make it available for purchase. When you own a title, you get an additional benefit that's on it. You can buy additional titles, but the cost is +5 for each title that you already own. Now, what are these bought with? Influence. Okay. Exception Warlord, you can't buy any and must renounce any you have. Okay. Sounds icky. You can renounce a title at any time, returning it to the pool for Admiral, Warlord, Chancellor, or if there are less than 3 others available, make it available instead. Okay. Well, I think that's the set of rules. Oh, there goes my knee again. Oh, fuck. Yeah, this is new. Destroying my body, but you know, I've always got the hope that I'm not going to last more than another couple of weeks. And that just seems to, for the past couple of years, you know, that's just been sort of my assumption that I'm not going to make it past another couple of weeks, basically since I lost my job. Which is why, like, I don't take care of my teeth and why I have, it's that live each day as if it's your last philosophy, which means fuck it. There's no reason to plan or expect anything else, and no reason to make new memories or anything. It's just let's live it as if it's our last, and just keep taking that morphine in electronic form. All right. Anyway. I'll never understand people who see life as, like, hopeful. That's not true. I often have hopes. They're unrealistic. And I've kind of stopped having them in the past, recently. But anyway. Yeah, I got to clear up and reset the game. put the new couple of locations in place, etc. But I think we're ready to start the big campaign. I don't know how many players I'm going to play, because the game definitely gets complicated when you play a lot of players. I remember doing, the maximum, whatever that is, 6 or 7 in the original Stellar Horizons. And I think maybe that's too many. But it also is kind of fun to have that many players in it. Unlike, some other games where there's a real reason to have additional factions in it. I'm not sure that there's a terrible reason for this. Just having your bases count as twice their size for extending ship range. What? See, this is the thing. I don't know. I don't know where that is. Like, extending ship range. So I thought a 1-point base is enough to extend your ship range. And I'm not sure where I'm going to find this. These rules are so hard to discover anything in. Wow. So I look at something and I immediately have a problem. So we got a ship range here, which only, well, RE range is 1 initially. I don't know where CV range went up. Let's get this shit off here so I can fucking see. This is one of the problems. You put all these counters on here, they become a distraction, and you can't really see what's on the tech chart. But RE range, CV range, there we go. Starts at 1. Yeah. But it's 1 from what? And where do I find that? Like, this is what's really disturbing to me. It's got to be under movement, you would say. But I'm looking at movement. Here we go. You can only move to systems that are in range of Earth or one of your bases with enough settlements to build the ship. Aha! Yeah, okay. So I just forgot about that. Again, I didn't actually cheat, but I moved, or was moving, a base in this last game with the intention. I seem to have removed all my bases, but I was building a base or moving a base with the intention of being able to operate within range of it, but it's got to be a big enough base. That's something that it's going to be hard to remember because I've already fucked it up in my head, right? All right, let's send this up.